Hey guys, MC Mura here. Recently I saw a video called The Weaknesses of Every Character in Street Fighter 6 and I thought that the idea was really intriguing. However, after I checked out that video, I didn't end up loving it because it wasn't executed in the way that I thought it would. So I figured why not make a video myself about the weaknesses for every character in the game. And there are two things that I want to highlight. This is probably going to be like a really long video, so I imagine I'm going to split it into two probably. And the second thing is a character not having a crouching medium kick drive rush. I don't consider that a weakness because their crouching medium kick is just gonna be used for a different situation. Like for example, a drive rush crouching medium kick. I know how original, but a character not having an invincible reversal, that's a weakness. When I talk about weakness, I mean something that you can exploit in the matchup. I'm gonna show you some of the stuff, some of the strategies that you can exploit against every character, at least based on my knowledge, and I'm sure you guys know a lot more, and you're gonna tell me in the comments if you have like specific matchup knowledge that I didn't mention. That would be really cool. We can all be helpful to each other. So I'm gonna start first with Lord Bison, because that is the character that I do play. And Bison have one obvious weakness and a couple of others that may not be that obvious on first glance. The obvious weakness, let us get it out of the way first, is obviously Bison doesn't have an invincible reversal. And Bison not having an invincible reversal means that he's much more prone to stuff like that, where what Ken just did is not like a true block string, but see with Bison here, if I try to challenge, I'm gonna get counter hit. And that is really the main issue with not having an invincible reversal, is that you are much more prone to drive rush cancels. Characters, on the other hand, if I try to go for a non-airtight pressure against Ken, let's say that he's gonna block, right? If I go for something that is not like airtight, he can always OD uppercut, but Bison have to hold it. That is the main issue with characters not having an invincible reversal, and obviously just Ken says that I'm gonna block. Just Ken doing something like this means that he's now a +4, so he got like a better shimmy situation than a jab. Bison is losing more drive gauge for blocking because Ken have more frame advantage. It is really awful. Like, you pretty much have to hold drive rush cancels, where characters with OD uppercuts typically don't have to. And one of the other things is like okay situation on drive rush as well. Like for example, Bison obviously can't do that, right? And there's not that much that Bison actually can do. Even if he tried to like slow himself down with a jab, he can get punished. So that is the difference that having an OD reversal have. So with all of the other characters, when we're gonna talk about not having an OD reversal, it's mostly gonna be for holding drive rush pressure and just like on block string, DRCs, and just holding drive rush pressure on wake up as well, right? And the same goes for throws, throw loops, and everything, right? It's obviously like it's a gigantic advantage to have invincible reversal. So that is the obvious weakness for Bison. Now let's get that out of the way and let's talk about some of the other things that you can exploit in the matchup. I'm gonna start first with one that not many people know or challenge, and that is M.Bison's DRCs. So obviously in this game, like I just showed you, most characters are gonna drive rush crouching medium kick, crouching medium kick drive rush, and Bison, he wanna make it through block string, so he's gonna crouching medium kick drive rush into crouching jab, left him at a +2. Now here's the thing, this is a true block string, so if Ken's trying to mash, he doesn't get to, right? So that's cool. Now his crouching jab is gonna be +2 only in this situation. Now +2 is not that great. Yes, if Ken try to mash like crouching jab, his crouching jab will get thrown, so we're getting counter hit grabbed, but the frame trap options aren't great because Bison is forced to use light. If Bison went with his 6 frame medium, what is gonna happen here is a trade, right? And this trade left us at we got counter hit on. This trade left us at a +8 advantage, but it's really hard for Bison here to capitalize, and the frame advantage is gonna differ as well. So this is on like a standing light punch, right? +8, but we're in range for a crouching medium kick. right? But that took out like all of the drive bars that Bison got. But check this out. If Ken, instead of a standing light punch, went with a crouching light punch, now we're gonna be only at +6. So it's gonna depend on which 4-framer Ken decided to go for. So it just creates like this scramble situation. And it can be hard for the Bison if he doesn't know the matchup well. It can be hard for him to challenge here. So he mostly will go for like a light frame trap, which is not that rewarding for him, right? So figured I should talk about it, right? So the challenge here isn't that bad of an idea, right? Because a frame trap, in my opinion, isn't that strong. Another aspect of Bison that I think is underexplored is his anti-airs. So Bison crouching heavy punch is a fantastic anti-air, right? This will beat many of the jumping normals, but what makes it really, really good is that if it happened to counter hit, it knocks them down, so it creates this float state. It's gonna be hard for Bison to get like a juggle here, but most of the time he's gonna dash up, he's gonna be plus, which is great. But here's the thing, if this didn't happen to counter hit, so if it's just like a regular hit, it's just gonna knock them back. And Bison doesn't have that much frame advantage. He's gonna be like +3, +4, +5, depending on the height, which is not ideal. Most of the time, Bison is gonna try to take his turn with like standing medium kick to shake you, but because he doesn't have that crazy frame advantage here, that is very prone to drive impact. This is a situation that comes up a lot. If you play Bison, you have been subjected to this, and if you don't, that is a trick that you can do. Obviously preemptive, but yes, I think still really good. And here's the thing. Because his crouching heavy punch is super vertical, it is very prone to being empty jumped, right? See this? Bison is -17, -18, so Ken can come down and then hit me with a heavy, and it's gonna be like a punish counter. So empty jumps are very good against Bison. Another thing that is usable against Bison is meaty projectiles. So Bison only reversal options. He does have like a level 1, level 2, level 3, and all of them are reversal options, but level 1s in general are not immune to projectiles, and his level 2 is really slow. This is 26 frame startup. So this means that if you knock Bison down and then try to go for a meaty projectile, it's gonna be really hard for him to have a reversal option. So let's say that Ken is gonna throw us, and then he's gonna go for OD Fireball, because this is one of the new meaty options for Ken, right? If Bison tried to wake up level 1, obviously he gets stuffed, but if he tried to level 2, Ken will still get to block in time and he gets punished. Meaning that the only real defensive option here for Bison is a level 3, right? Which obviously that could work in some instance, but that's a lot of meter, right? So in general with Bison, his DRCs on block are not that great in my opinion. He doesn't have an invincible reversal. You can absolutely play around his anti-airs and try to go for empty jumps and meaty fireballs, and characters that have good meaty fireball options can be really hard for Bison to challenge. So let's now go over my second character, which is C.Viper. Now, just like Bison, Viper has the issue of not having an invincible reversal, right? So this means that she is very prone to crouching medium kick DR, she gotta hold it, she's gonna hold drive rush, pressure on wake up, you name it. I just talked about it in the Bison section, so you get an idea of just how crippling this weakness could be. But Viper also got a couple of unique issues to her. One of the main issues with Viper is that I do think she's one of the worst characters in the game at checking drive rush, which is a huge problem for her. So there are two main reasons for this. The first one is that her main supposedly drive rush check, crouching medium punch, is very short and it's not that active. It's only 3 frame active. So if say Ryu is doing that, because the move is short and it's not that active, you are very prone to this happening. And that is not gonna happen with Bison, that's not gonna happen with Terry, that's gonna happen with Viper, right? Because move is short, it's not that active. So if they can manipulate their momentum, that is a huge issue for her. And especially on a move like that with Ryu, where the move can hit twice, Even if you try to go for the counter, she's gonna get the guard's gonna get broken, and you're gonna lose a lot of meter. And her best checks, which is probably like standing medium kick, that is not normally cancelable. So this move is good, but like you're gonna have to spend meter. I spend 2 bars just to stop Ryu from drive rushing at me, and that is still 8 frame startup. And that kinda boils into her other issue. Personally, with Viper, I just use jabs, but that even isn't that rewarding because as you can see, more often than not, you're not gonna get the challenge. So I just do like jab into like Thunder Knuckle. And that's like so little reward, right? And even then, if I want to get Oki, I'm spending meter. So her drive rush checks are just awful. So this is something that you absolutely can exploit against Viper. Another main issue is that Viper is extremely meter hungry. This is a character that needs meter to absolutely do everything. So like if she want to get light knockdown, that is just gonna be 0 after a dash and at a distance where she doesn't really have a good check. So to get the Oki, she's gonna have to spend meter for a light knockdown, which like most of the game will get for free. Many of her combos are gonna use like meter. Again, this is like a 2-bar combo. Yes, she can get the grab and start getting meter, but yeah, everything she does require meter. And I even just talked about the drive rush checks, right? So if your character is someone like Ryu, who is an expert at destroying drive gauge, this could be really hard for Viper to deal with. So when you're playing against Viper, absolutely prioritize destroying her drive gauge, because once her drive gauge is down, all of her best normals like standing medium kick, like crouching medium kick, like standing heavy punch, all that stuff goes out of the window and she's not really gonna be able to use them, right? So that is a huge weakness for Viper. Another issue for her, in my opinion, is that she does have a level 1, which is 8 frames, so that is pretty fast. But one of the main issues is the timer down there. So when she activates, she's on a timer, so she can't build meter. And on any situation of advantage, like let's say that Ryu is gonna knock us down, and he's gonna mash jab, right? That is a reversal option, right? But here's the thing. If Ryu back rises here, Viper is on a timer where she can't really do much. She's gonna have to go in, and she can't really build meter. And even if she gotten hit, like even if Ryu blocked it and punished Viper, she's not gaining meter while being comboed. You see what I'm saying? Alright, now moving over to Luke. Now, here's the thing with Luke. Luke is a well-rounded character. He doesn't have huge glaring issues because he does have an invincible reversal, he does have a fireball. He's in generally like is a very well-rounded character, but there are some issues here and there that you can play around. One of the main issues with Luke is that he doesn't have a fast standing normal. His jab is 7 frames, medium is 9, heavy is 10. So lacking a fast standing normal is actually kind of a big deal in some matchups. Like let's say versus Viper, right? If I do something like crouching medium punch into burn kick, that is gonna happen to him a lot because he lacks the standing jab to check. If he did the standing jab, he's gonna get counter hit, right? Depending on the distance, depending on what happened, he's gonna get counter hit. So against characters like Viper, against characters like Ken, against characters like Dhalsim that now have a faster float, because he doesn't have a fast standing jab, a fast 4-framer, that type of move, it can be hard for him to challenge. Now, obviously, he does have an uppercut, so it's not like he is out of options, but if he is challenging with an uppercut, that obviously like demands a lot more from the Luke, right? So it's not a huge issue, but it is one of the things that you absolutely can play around. Another thing with Luke, in my opinion, is that he is meter reliant. Just like Viper, he is meter reliant. Like most of the times, if Luke knocks you out with a light, his Oki here is not great, so he's gonna have to drive rush, most of the time he's gonna go for like DRCs because he kind of have to. So he's gonna be low on meter, you know, like the Noah Prodigy style. The thing is that the reality is Luke is meter reliant, right? So if you're a character that have a lot of weight to ship a drive gauge, if you're like a Ryu or a Sagat again, maybe Bison, characters that can really attack you, their drive gauge, that can be a little bit difficult for Luke. Now, he is one of the strongest characters in the game, in my opinion, in Burnout, but yeah, I feel like that's something that you can exploit. Another thing with Luke, in my opinion, is his cancels are somewhat predictable. So Luke pretty much have like the heavy punch cancels, and most of the time they're gonna try to cancel into heavy sandblaster. Because that's really good, right? Because depending on the distance, he can be plus. Right? Like more often than not, he's actually gonna be plus, especially in the corner, but he kind of needs to space it. But because of that projectile speed of the sandblaster, and if he does the light or the medium, especially up close, he's gonna be negative to the point where it can be punchable. This is kind of like a predictable. Perfect parry. This, in my opinion, is kind of like a predictable perfect parry. And if he goes for like the light or the medium, this time he's going for the light, which obviously means my parry is not going to come out. He's going to be -8, which, yeah, that's going to be negative. And if he's going to go for the medium again, which is not that great, he's going to be -5. So that is unsafe as well. So he kind of is forced to go for the heavy sandblaster, which is plus on block, but it is a predictable perfect parry. Kind of the same thing with his target combo, where pretty much anytime he does this into any of the sandblasters, even like the heavy, that is a free DI, and any of the knuckles is gonna be free DI. He pretty much have to go into like the OD fireballs. That is his only options, and if he does that, again, that is prone to meter. So he doesn't have huge issues, but he does have some things that you just know he's gonna do, and if you play around his drive gauge, I think you can have a good chance against him. This is for Mai, and Mai is one of the strongest characters in the game. She is insane, she's ridiculous, top 3, but I do think she have a couple of small flaws that maybe you can try to exploit in the matchup. It's nothing major, but small weaknesses that maybe we can try to use. So I think one of the main issues with her is that her lights are really stubby. So this is her standing jab, crouching light kick, standing light kick. Even from this distance, nothing reaches Ken, but Ken, his standing light kick will absolutely reach. So because her lights in general are short, she's really bad at punishing the -4, -5s. So say that Ken is gonna go for like a heavy kick of sorts, right? This move is typically gonna be like -5 on block, but it's gonna be very difficult for Mai to punish something like this, right? Especially on block. So against moves like scissors, heavy kick of these sorts, so bats, that sort of move, it can be hard for Mai to punish it on block. Now, if you whiff, and she whiff punishes you, I mean, that's more on you, but that at least is a small flaw in her neutral toolkit. Now, another issue with Mai, in my opinion, is her uppercut, where her uppercut is really vertical, but horizontally, it doesn't move that much. Which means that I don't think she's susceptible to empty jumps, right? Because since the uppercut mostly goes up, there is very little forward momentum. So you can play around that. So if Ken's here, like take a micro step backwards and then jumps, that could, I think I just did it late at that time. But yeah, see this, it can whiff like that and then she gets punished. So she gotta be careful, maybe use like a heavy uppercut, but that is a little bit slower and it is hard to use that as an on reaction from a distance. Obviously, like if you have to use a slower uppercut, then you have to react earlier, or she's gonna have to use an OD, so you can use that to your advantage. But generally, most people try to react late and they're gonna go for a light DB. So that is very prone to whiffing, especially with characters like say Kimberly, characters that can change the jump arc. If she's trying to react, she can get got, right? So I think that also is something that you can use, especially some characters we're gonna be able to leverage that. Another issue with Mai, in my opinion, is her OD fans, which is a terrific move, right? But it still counts as a one projectile, meaning that if your reaction to OD fans is throwing an OD projectile of your own, she's not really gonna be able to beat it, right? See this, she gets counter hit. For Mai to challenge this, she have to go for the double OD fans, and at that point, she doesn't get the bounce, so the situation isn't that great. And even if she committed to the whole thing and just did all of the follow-ups, the extra ones, the third and the fourth fan, they will launch, so the situation isn't great. What I'm trying to say is, especially against, since I played Mai for a while and I played other characters, like say with a character like Deejay, with Guile, you can wait for Mai to throw the OD fan and then use your OD projectile. If Mai is playing against you and they were like a fireball character and you see that and you see her throwing OD fans, just throw an OD fireball of your own and you're gonna win the projectile wars, more or less. Obviously, she's amazing. She got amazing reversals, she got amazing pressure, really good throw loop, really good everything. But I do think that these are some of the weaknesses that maybe you can play around. Alright, now moving over to my buddy Officer Manon, who's on a vacation right now. So Manon got the main issue of not having an invincible reversal. That obviously is always a huge deal. She's gonna have to hold a lot of pressure, which isn't that good. However, I do think Manon got a couple of other issues that, in my opinion, are really annoying. One of the main things about Manon that I really dislike is her counter hit challenges aren't that great. So Manon got obviously like her jabs, crouching jab and standing jab. They are +3, +4, and her mediums are both 7 frame startup, meaning that if Manon challenges, she doesn't hit a light to medium, which really limits her counter hit check reward. If that makes sense. So say that we're gonna have Terry do something like that, right? And I'm gonna have Manon try to check. Like I got the counter hit, but I'm only +5. So meaning I only get like a light kick. So it's like you're only getting that, which that is like 1100 damage. That is nothing, or she's gonna have to use meter. What I mean by this is that on defensive interruptions, Manon is extremely low reward. Like on the other hand, say that if you're on Terry's gonna get into crouching medium punch. So he got that's 400 and he got a knockdown that is really great. She doesn't. She doesn't get anything of sorts, which is absolutely unfortunate. So when you're trying to pressure her, even if you think she's gonna challenge, just challenge for Manon isn't that rewarding. Another huge issue for Manon, in my opinion, is her backdash. So Manon have a 25 frames backdash, where say a Terry have a 23. So Manon have a 2 frames slower backdash. As a matter of fact, it is one of the slowest backdashes in the game. This is an issue because in situations, say against Terry, right, where Terry have his throw loop, right, most of the roster can backdash and punish that second grab because they're gonna be +4. The issue with Manon is if she backdashed Heron Wake Up, she's only +2. So she doesn't get guaranteed punish on backdashing throws, making backdashing throws for Manon a much worse option than it is for the other characters. Sure, sure, she can go for stuff like backdash in command grab, but that is not a guaranteed punish. The opponent can still try to jump, can still backdash, can still do an invincible reversal, where most of the other roster members will get a guaranteed punish. So when you're fighting against Manon, this is something huge that you got to keep in mind, right? Another issue with Manon is that her level 1, which is like 10 frames, so you can like jab it, you can like drive rush jab on wake up if you got like a really good knockdown, so the reversal options even aren't that great. Her level 2 only does like 2800, so it's not that much. Manon also is like meter reliant as well, because most of the knockdowns she's gonna do that, which doesn't give her like that great of an Oki. One of the main issues is if, say, Terry wakes up with, I think if he wake up with a Buster Wolf, there is nothing she can do. Yeah, she's just gonna get gulped. She absolutely can't do any sort of drive rush follow-up on that. Yeah, that's Barbanash everything. So her Oki in general is kind of predictable as well. I think you can see it coming. And in general, her drive rush isn't that fast. So you kind of have to play, I don't want to say honest neutral, but yeah. So in general, her defensive options are kind of not that great. Alright, so now it's time for my boy Deejay, and Deejay's main weakness is that he's really weak in burnout because his level 1 is not an invincible super, right? So if Deejay is in burnout and say that we made him do like a so bad as a reversal, let's actually make him block. Let's just reset it. Is that baby? Nope, it's not. So he is very prone to being wall splatted, very prone to being stunned, because his level 1 isn't an invincible reversal. He's gonna have to use a level 2 or a level 3, which makes defense a little bit hard with Deejay once he is in burnout. So one of our main strategies against him is gonna be trying to get him to burnout. And thankfully, I do think he got a couple of holes in his game that can make this a little bit easier. So Deejay does have his move, a reversal option, which is the OD Jackknife Maximum, right? His up kicks, hey, right? Which is really good. And it's a charge move, so that's good. But the thing about it is that it's very, the range horizontally is very short. So this is one of the easiest reversals to bait. Right? It's very short, so it is very baitable, unlike, say, a Ken OD uppercut that goes a long distance. His is really short. Another thing about it is that it is so negative on whiff and block. He was like a negative 106 frames. Like, you had 3 years. Even if I blocked it, that is minus 29. So yeah, it's very, very unsafe. Meaning that because it's baitable, like, you can punish it with a DI. I think I needed to dash here. Like, you can just do that. And Deejay now lost like a ton of meter in the process, right? And that can be easier for us to burn him out. If I got like a critical art or level 3, I can absolutely do that. So in general, punishing his OD hey with a drive impact can be very good in this match. It's one of the easiest ones. I think most characters, even if he did it on block, most characters are gonna be able to dash forward and still punish it on block. Yeah, that is a guaranteed punish for like the majority of the roster, and he lost like 4 bars on that interaction. If I got, oh my god. Yeah, that's an insta burnout, right? And we made a case of him in burnout being a little bit weaker. So that is a weakness, that absolutely is a weakness with Deejay that you can play around. And I think in general, it is true that Deejay is somewhat weak to DI. So most of his like sway options, all of these are pretty much weak to DI. Like, if he does that, it is true that you can DI that, right? And so was overhead, and so for a lot of his other follow-ups. And even if he dashes forward, it is kind of slow. So it's not like huge crazy weaknesses, because at the end, Deejay I still think is a very good, well-rounded character, and he have a lot of strong neutral options. But yeah, one mistake with Deejay and you can really exploit him and deal like a lot of damage to his drive gauge and ultimately pressure him in burnout. Now on to Kimberly, and Kimberly shares one of the main issues, which is obviously not having an invincible reversal. So she's gonna have to hold pressure. We talked about this already for multiple characters, so you do get the point. Now, Kimberly also does have an issue in my opinion. It's not an issue with the character herself because she does have options, but she is somewhat susceptible to empty jumps. Kimberly Blair really love using her crouching heavy punch, so if Ryu say here decided to empty jump, it's very easy to make this move with, because the range on it is very vertical. Again, vertical hitbox great, horizontal hitbox not that much. Now, why am I saying that this is mostly not real? Because she does have like Zatsu, which is like a real anti-air option, and Kimberly in general is fast. So unlike say Bison or JP, who have like average or a little bit slower than average walk speeds, Kimberly is really fast, and having to empty jump a character with a really good walk speed, it's a little bit harder. And she can hard call out, like maybe she can go for the insta air grabs, and she just has the tatsus. So it's like she does have options, but it is there. It is something that you can do. Now, I do want to quickly talk about Kimberly's wake up options, because the thing with Kimberly, in my opinion, is that Kimberly in general does low damage. So her throw here, for example, did about like shy of 1.1k, where use does 1200, and that extends to pretty much her entire toolkit. Kimberly does less damage than average, so that when she activates the buff with the level 3, she then gets like the damage boost, and now she's doing a little bit more damage, so it brings her more in line with the rest of the roster. So by default, she's doing a little bit less, but then at that point, she's gonna be doing the 1200 the same as Ryu, right? So this means that there is huge incentive for Kim to use the level 3. And because Kimberly really wanna use level 3, early on in the round, when she only have like level 1 or so, her using level 1 is really not that good for her. Because, I mean, yeah, I can get you off of me, and yeah, that could be nice. But if I do that, now I have to wait again until I get level 3, and I'm gonna be able to do damage. So this is a strategic element that you absolutely can use against her, because even if she does the reversal, she's either gonna do 1800, which is not that much, or she's gonna go for the can extension, which is gonna be like 2k. But with that 2k, which is good, but she used the can, so most of her devastating corner setups are now out of the window, because she's gonna need 2 cans, and there is no reload at 1 can, so she's gonna have to throw it to then be able to get the position to have 2 cans again, because 2 cans Kimberly is where like the nightmares really exist, right? With 1 can, she can get good damage, but not the insane 2 can damage. And that generally make the level 1 not a huge, not a very appealing option to Kimberly. Just if we're talking like specifically risk reward, it's not that good. Another thing with Kimberly is, just like Bison, I do think she's very susceptible to meaty projectiles as well. Because say that we got situation like that, obviously level 1 is gonna get stuffed, and so she used minus 13 on that, so she's eating a big fat punish. If she tried to go for a level 2, which level 2 will beat that, but that happens especially like in the corner, so she can't even use level 2 like that, and she was like minus 34 on this wave, so she's eating another big fat punish. So she struggles against meaty projectiles. You're gonna have to mess around with your characters to see like what she can and can't punish. But meaty projectiles aren't great. She really wanna get that level 3. So you can absolutely abuse Kimberly's defensive options until that point. But once she gets level 3, I think most of her issues are actually gone. And I genuinely do think level 3 enhanced Kimberly is one of the strongest characters in the game. Issue in my opinion, but she does have a couple of annoyances that can be kind of annoying depending on the matchups. I think her biggest issue is she just doesn't fight the top tiers well, not that well, but she doesn't have like a crippling flow of her own. But I'm going to talk to you about the stuff that I do think is a little bit problematic. One of the main issues with her is her lights pressure. So she's one of the very few, I think maybe the only character in the game that can't get 3 jabs, right? Which is very uncommon in this game. So she pretty much gonna go for 2 jabs into standing light kick, but this does have a gap, right? So if she's doing that, into the standing light kick, that does have a gap. So say we're gonna make Ryu check with, she's gonna block 2, and then Ryu is gonna check with us here with a crouching light punch. See here, so Ryu is gonna get the counter hit interruption, right? So yeah, I mean, that is not great. That is not ideal. That is something that you can use when you're fighting against Juri. Like, I'm sure here he can get like crouching jab, light kick into Donkey and get her off of her. So that is something that is pretty decent. She also she doesn't have like a hard fireball call out. A lot of Juri players are gonna tell you that Juri struggles against fireballs, and she doesn't have like a fast drive rush, so it's not like she's super struggling against fireballs. But the idea is that she doesn't have like a hard call out. You know how Marisa have like the Superman punch, or Chun-Li have Hazanshu. Some characters have moves that if I hard read, even Terry have like the crack shoot. If I hard read your projectile, I do have an option that I can use, Honda butt slam, etc. She doesn't really have that. Like, the best thing she got going is the dive kick, and the dive kick isn't even that great, because this is the best that it could be, which is -3, but more often than not, it's gonna be -4, it's gonna be unsafe. So yeah, if your character got a good projectile zoning, you can deal well with her, right? Dealing with just fireball zoning, or like putting a lot of projectiles on the screen, can make it a little bit difficult for Juri, so she's gonna have to perfect parry, she's gonna have to play honest, right? So that is something to be said, right? Also, she does kind of have a fair throw loop. This is one of these throw loops where you can backdash and she can get punished, so that is something that you got to keep in mind. In general, again, nothing so huge, but it is just small issues here and there that maybe you can use in some situations, but yeah. And speaking of no huge issues, obviously Akuma. Like, Akuma is perfect. In this game, Akuma have 0 major flaws. His jabs are really strong, his mediums are really long and really good, his damage is really high, his anti-airs are really good, his fireball game is really good. The only issue, if you could call that, with Akuma is obviously gonna be his HP, right? Because he's got 9k HP and the average character got 10k, and I think he might, I'm not sure, but in Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, other characters like Cammy, like Dalsim, they would also have like below average HP, but in this game I think he's the only character below 10k and he's at 9k. So yeah, that is just the issue with Akuma, but that does make him harder to play. The fact that he takes more damage, especially in a game like this where everyone is doing massive damage, it makes Akuma a little bit harder to play, I think, because he like, it's already like a very volatile game and you can't make a huge number of errors, but it's gonna be even less for Akuma. The other thing, which is not, I wouldn't even call it a weakness, I feel like that violates what I'm talking about, but I mean, his mid-screen throws aren't great. It pretty much like resets the neutral. There's not really that much that he could do here. Maybe do that, but put him at like a +1 and he's not in throw range. So that is not that great, but that I can't really call that a weakness. Unfortunately, Akuma and generally I think the Shotos in general in this game, all of them have very strong everything with 0 major flaws. Like, he doesn't struggle. He have plus frames. He got good whiff punishes. He got good walk speed. He got good fireballs. He got good supers. Good air to air. Good jump ins. I mean, he got good. He's Akuma. Like, what do you want me to say? Because much like Akuma, Ken obviously also does not have any major flaws. As a matter of fact, I do think Ken probably has the best defense in the game because his defensive interruptions are mad scary. Like, you get defensively interrupted by Ken, and you're just going to the corner. You're just going to the corner because his crouching jab will counter hit combo into his crouching medium kick. So yeah. Bam, 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 bam. Now you're gonna get to the corner, or he can side switch, right? Ken obviously got uppercut. There is some strength that he lacks. Right? Like, his damage output isn't great. He doesn't have a regular overhead, but I wouldn't call that a weakness, right? Because again, this is one of these things where you can't exploit Ken not having an overhead. but yeah, I mean, that may put him at a lower status than Ryu and Akuma this season, but it's not like a flaw that you can exploit against him. It's not like not having an invincible reversal, but yeah. If I had to point one thing with Ken right now, it is that his corner situation is kind of weird, especially with back rise, where his throw loop is a lot harder for some reason on back rise. Like, if Ryu here is doing a quick rise, this is a very easy walk forward throw loop, right? But if he suddenly decides to back rise, this becomes like a 1 frame throw loop. It becomes substantially harder, right? So I guess you can gamble on that with Ken, but obviously, I mean, he can just heavy punch you, so it's not like a crippling weakness, but I do think this is a bug, and I'm surprised Capcom never patched this to this point. But if you told me, Mura, what is the weakness of Ken? That is pretty much like the only thing I'm gonna be able to think about. Other than that, he doesn't have really like exploitable flaws that you can use. Right? And now it's time for Rashid. And Rashid is a very strong character. I think he's really good, but I do think he have a couple of issues that you can use. Nothing too major, but you can use it to your advantage. So the thing with Rashid is just like I think his lights are on the stubbier end. They don't reach that far. Not to the my level, but they're not very long. And his longest light is his standing light punch, which is 4 frame. So I think that's good. But because the range on these lights aren't that great, he's gonna have issues punishing like -4, -5 moves from distances that other characters will be able to punish. So say that I'm doing that with Viper. Yeah. Maybe other characters will be able to punish that, but yeah, it's gonna be really hard. So if you got a move like M.Bison Scissors, the Ken Heavy Kick, that sort of style of moves that is -4, -5, but you can kind of space it, it can be hard for Rashid to punish. And speaking of that, of his lights as well, I do think his counter hit confirms in general for challenging isn't that great. So his crouching jab will combo into his crouching medium kicks because this is going to be +7. He have a 7 frame crouching medium kick, so that is great. So Mura, what the hell are you talking about? That is a great defensive check. That is just like Ken. But here's the thing. Rashid's crouching jab is 5 frame startup. Right? It's 5 frames, where his standing is 4. So if Rashid wanna shake you, he's typically gonna go for the standing, and at +6, this he gotta use the standing medium or the crouching medium, and both of them are on the shorter end. So on defensive checks, these are better to use offensively than they are to use defensively, right? Because defensively, he have to be very close. Meaning that on defense, if you want to go for the crouching jab into crouching medium kick, he's gonna have to challenge with the crouching light punch. which leaves him prone to other things. Like if he have to challenge with a 5 framers, then Viper can just standing medium punch and then grab him, right? If he's doing it with the standing one, he's gonna counter hit her. But at this distance, his mediums will not connect. See what I'm saying? It's like he have to rely on a slower option to get more reward, but that slower option that he have to rely on will let him be more susceptible to other frame traps, which no pity for Rashid, but yeah, that is something that you got to keep in mind. Another thing about him is that a lot of Rashid players will love to like run away and do that. And the thing is, Rashid have massive hurt box extension on his fireball. Like you can drive impact him from much further than you would think, right? This is one of these things that once I understood about Rashid, I had much easier time shaking him with drive impact, and in general, like it's a long startup on this fireball. So yeah, his fireball options are not great. And now on to Ed. And Ed's main weaknesses are well documented. It's his uppercut, this being 10 frames. This means that it is like a slow anti-air, so Ed have to use it really early. So it is hard to use it as a deep DP or like to react. If I try to go fish for a normal in the neutral, I typically can't whiff and then be still able to anti-air. That is different from the other shooters, where like Luke can bait with it, and if this whiffs, he still got a really fast uppercut at 5 frames. Ed have to go for a 10 frame uppercut, which, I mean, yeah, that is obviously on the slower end. Another issue with Ed is obviously his reversals, which having a slow reversal means that the opponent can shake you and still be able to block in time, and this same thing will happen if Ed happened to wake up with a level 1 as well. So it is one of these sort of weaknesses that's just gonna be consistent for his design, and obviously his level 2 isn't invincible at all. So yeah, I mean, he does have weaker than average reversal. Even his level 3, which is like at 10 frames, it's not that fast, right? So that is something that you got to keep in mind. So he's a little bit more committal on defense than some of the other characters that do have reversal options. I still think that is better than not having a reversal at all, but yeah, that is something that you got to keep in mind. Now, another issue with Ed, in my opinion, is that his punishes for drive reversals aren't great because he doesn't have a 6 frame medium. So typically he's gonna go for something like that, which is not that much damage. I wouldn't call this a weakness because he's so strong at so many other things, but you might get away with drive reversals a little bit more versus Ed. But obviously, I mean, he can still do stuff like that. So it's not like a free get out of jail card, but maybe with him it's a little bit more lenient. Another thing with Ed, I don't think his drive rush cancels are that great because most of the time, the normal that a player wanna use is a standing medium kick. They typically try to go for something like this, or maybe a standing medium kick or standing jab and then grab you. But this is never a true block string. Like that standing medium kick got a gap, so you can shake here. He can't make this a true block string. Right, so you can always challenge here, and even if you try to drive reversal, like I showed you, his drive reversal punishment, it's not really that hot to the point where you're getting like something major against him. So he's still fantastic, obviously, but to be fair, yeah, some small defaults here and there. And now on to Elena, and Elena pretty much shares the same weakness as Deejay, where her level 1 isn't involved. So if the opponent say, let's put ours in the corner, if the opponent say does a maybe bunch into like DI, you can't really use a level 1 to escape that sort of situation, which That obviously does make the character a little bit weaker in Burnout, so that is something that you got to keep in mind. But other than that, I do think Elena got a couple of other issues that I think are a little bit annoying. I think one of the main issues with Elena is her kind of like Viper, but not really, is her drive rush checks. And that kind of plays into Elena's other issues with hitting crouchers in general, where this target combo whiffs on crouchers and this also whiffs on crouchers. So one of them things with her is that this standing medium punch is 8 frames startup and it's 5 frames active, which is really good. Like generally the move have good range and it's very active, so it's like you can absolutely use it to check drive rush. And take a look at this, great rewards, right? This move is a fantastic drive rush check, right? The issue is that this doesn't hit crouchers. So if Cam is doing this, it's slower at 8 frames, so that actually makes it harder. But yeah, the second hit will still whiff, meaning that you're pretty much forced to use it that way. Like if you actually want to have a good chance, you want to use it into like super, but that's obviously like super expensive. And again, this is a character that needs a little bit of meter because without level 2, she's gonna be very prone in burnout. So this is definitely an issue. In my opinion, this is probably like the biggest issue with Elena. From my experience, from playing her, this was the hardest thing, was checking drive rushes consistently. Because crouching medium punch got a good hitbox, but 8 frames. Typically, you want to have a move like a Bison, a Terry, a Shoto crouching medium punch that got a good disjoint, that is decently fast. At 8 frames, you are slow. So if I'm going for a move that is that slow, I then prefer to go with a move with a lot of active frames, which is typically that standing medium punch. But as you can see, she got like an issue with like standing crouching, which might be a little bit annoying. And not maybe it's hard to call this an issue, but I do think her throw loop is one of the harder ones to do, because it does require like really good timing. What's she waking up with? Let's make her wake up with a jab. I think this is one of these throw loops that are challenging enough execution-wise to the point, kind of like Ken, where you do have some incentive to take a gamble. And now on to JP, which is obviously very strong, but I do also think he got small issues here and there. One of the main ones is that his faster light, which is crouching jab, is very short. So just like many other characters, space, the heavy kick, a scissor kick, that sort of move, it can be hard for him to punch that. Right, so this is something that you can play around, especially since this is a range where he's gonna swing a lot anyways. And unlike this is not like a super fast character. So with characters like Bison, with Ken, etc., I don't think this is a weakness that you can exploit, that you can kind of play around, right? Something to keep in mind, especially when you're fighting this demon. Another thing with JP is he is also kind of weak to meaty projectiles. So just like I showed you before, something like that is gonna be very good against him because his level 1 is gonna lose, OD Amnesia is gonna lose, so he doesn't have like good options against meaty fireballs. As a matter of fact, this is one of the main ways that you can go and play against him. I talked about the empty jumps, which could work like against characters like Kimberly, against Bison. But the thing with JP is that unlike Kimberly and Bison, he have a hard call out that is easy and very rewarding. So I wouldn't advise it that much, but it is true that his crouching heavy punch is one that you can empty jump around, but it's a guess, right? And unlike Bison, that will crumble, but hard for him to do like anything meaningful if I cancel. JP does this, which pretty much makes him win the neutral. So the jumping game against JP is something that you could be doing, but it's not ultra rewarding. Marisa, which is probably gonna be like the final character for today's video. She does have obviously the issue of not having an invincible reversal, but I do think it's a little bit better for her than it is for, say, Bison or Manon, because she does have OD Gladius, which I mean, I guess you could use because it's frame 1 armor. Although you getting a punish is gonna depend on what they did, but it is there, it is an option, and obviously you can cancel that into like a level 3, which could deal like a lot of drive damage in the process, so that is there, but obviously she doesn't have an invincible reversal, which, I mean, that is fair enough. I think that is a weakness. Where Marisa lacks, it's kind of like what I said with Manon. Like Bison have insane counter hit confirms because his jab will go into crouching medium. That's not the case with Marisa because her her crouching jab will only let her be at +6. So she's mostly gonna get stuff like that, which is not that threatening. She doesn't even get like crouching jab into drive rush into follow up. So her reward on defensive checking is really, really low. It's like one of the lowest in the game. And I find it kind of weird that they went that way with her. But yeah, the defensive checks in general, if she happened to check, is not that rewarding, right? On punish counter, she gets good stuff. On a counter hit, not that much, right? Also, I think she have an issue with anti-airs in general. Now, Light Gladius is not bad, but this is one of these moves that they could bait, empty jump, and grab you, punish you, or just cross you up, and like you end up losing. But it is a good option. Crouching Heavy Punch also is susceptible to losing. This is supposed to be like her main option, but it's 12 frame startup, so it's on the slower end, and it is prone to losing. So it is something that you got to keep in mind. And just like Manon, Marisa also have a 20 frame throw, so she can't really backdash punish many of the backdashes. I'm actually not sure. So my throws, she throws again. You backdash, you're not gonna be able to punish that, right? She's only gonna be +2, where other characters are gonna be +4. So they do get a punish on Marisa does not really get that, right? So like some of these issues make Marisa's defense really bad. Obviously, the compensation is that she should be doing insane damage, but everyone is doing insane damage anyway, so her spot is kind of weird right now. But yeah, that's about it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts if you really enjoyed this type of content, or if you don't. I will probably do like a second barter where I cover like the rest of the roster, and let me know if there is any other exploitable weakness you think about some of the characters that I talked about. If maybe there is a weakness you think I should have talked about, let me know in the comments. I will be leaving a link to the Patreon, Discord, Twitter, and Twitch pages in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe.